Rain tapped gently against the glass as Lena stepped into the grocery store, her clothes damp, her spirit heavier. The hum of fluorescent lights above did little to warm the cold ache inside her. Her baby, nestled tightly in a worn carrier against her chest, let out a soft whimper, hungry again. Lena's fingers trembled as she opened her small coin purse, revealing a handful of change, quarters, dimes, a few worn pennies. She counted them twice, just to be sure. It wasn't much, but it would be enough, for one small tin of baby formula. With careful steps, she made her way to the baby aisle, bypassing shelves of food she couldn't afford. Her stomach ached, but her baby came first. Always. Clutching the tin close to her chest, Lena headed to the register. Her cheeks flushed as she placed it on the counter, avoiding the cashier's eyes. The woman rang up the total, $7.42. Lena exhaled slowly and began placing the coins one by one on the counter, the sound of metal tapping glass echoing in the quiet. Behind her, a man in a tailored suit stood, scrolling casually through his phone. He barely noticed the transaction at first, until the jingling coins caught his ear. Looking up, he watched as Lena carefully slid over every last cent she had. No card. No backup plan. Just coins and quiet desperation. She whispered, "No bag, please," and gathered the formula with both hands, ready to slip back into the shadows of a life where she constantly had to choose between dignity and survival. The man's expression shifted, something about her struck a chord deep within him. He watched as she turned away, unaware of the impact she had just made on the stranger behind her. The beep of the scanner cut through the quiet tension as the cashier rang up the single tin of baby formula. $7.42 flashed on the screen. Lena gave a faint nod and reached into her coat pocket, pulling out a tiny handful of coins, pennies, nickels, a few dimes, and one wrinkled dollar bill. Her fingers were cold, her nails chipped. She slid each coin onto the counter carefully, as if every one carried the weight of a choice she wished she didn't have to make. The cashier watched silently, her smile fading into something softer, something that understood. Lena didn't explain, didn't apologize. She just whispered, "I don't need a bag," as though even that small extra cost was too much to bear. She gathered the formula in her hands, gripping it like it was the last thread holding her together. Behind her, the stranger who had been half lost in his phone finally looked up. The sharp jingle of metal on glass caught his attention. He glanced over, expecting a minor inconvenience, but his gaze landed on something else entirely. Her hands were shaking. Not from the cold, but from exhaustion, fear, and the heavy silence of someone who had run out of options. His eyes traveled from her thin coat to the fragile blanket wrapped around the baby's head. The baby didn't cry anymore, only lay still, worn out. Something tightened in the man's chest. This wasn't just a woman making a purchase. It was a mother sacrificing everything, quietly, with no one to witness it, until now. He took a breath, realizing that what he had just seen would not be easy to forget. This wasn't charity. It was humanity staring him in the face. And for the first time in a long while, he felt the need to act. Lena clutched the tin of formula tightly against her chest and turned to leave, head bowed, her eyes fixed on the wet floor tiles ahead. The baby stirred slightly in the carrier, and she gently rocked him without stopping. She didn't want to draw attention, just disappear quietly, as she always did. But then a voice called out, low and careful. "Miss. Why didn't you say something?" She stopped in her tracks. Her body tensed. Slowly, she turned around to face the man who had been behind her in line. He looked nothing like someone who should care, a sharp suit, polished shoes, a man of wealth and ease. But his eyes were kind. "Say what?" she asked cautiously, unsure whether to trust it. He stepped closer, his voice softening. "I saw you back there. Struggling just to buy formula. You shouldn't have to do this alone." Lena's shoulders dropped slightly. Her grip loosened around the tin. She bit her lip, afraid that if she spoke, the pain would spill out. "There's no one to tell," she murmured. "No one listens." The man seemed genuinely moved. There was no pity in his gaze, just something deep and human. "I'm David," he said, extending a hand gently, as if not to startle her. "CEO of New Hope Foods." Lena blinked, confused. "What?" He nodded. "I think, maybe I was meant to be behind you today. To see what I've been blind to for far too long." For the first time in weeks, Lena didn't feel invisible. Not just seen, but understood. And in that moment, something shifted. A spark of hope broke through the heaviness, as if life had paused, just long enough to let compassion step forward. David didn't hesitate. Right there in the store, he spoke with the manager and filled a cart: formula, food, diapers, warm clothes, and essentials Lena hadn't dreamed of affording in weeks. She stood frozen, overwhelmed, tears blurring her vision. It felt surreal, like a hand reaching into the dark and pulling her toward the light. But David wasn't done. That night, he sat in his office, still thinking about her, the trembling hands, the quiet strength. He wrote a heartfelt post online with the caption, "Today I met a mother who broke my heart and opened my eyes." He told Lena's story, not her pain alone, but her resilience, her love, her silent fight to protect her child with nothing but courage. By morning, the story had taken flight. Thousands of people shared it. Comments poured in from strangers offering help, prayers, and admiration. Donations from around the world came flooding in, enough not only to support Lena, but to build a fund for struggling single mothers. A local housing nonprofit offered her a fully furnished apartment. A childcare organization gifted her a scholarship. Employers reached out, impressed not by her circumstances, but by her strength. Lena couldn't believe it. For the first time, her life was no longer a lonely battle, it was a shared mission. She stood at the center of a movement she never meant to start, her quiet struggle now a rallying cry for compassion. People were waking up. They were noticing the invisible. Once a forgotten figure in a checkout line, Lena had become a symbol of bravery. Not because she asked for help, but because someone chose to see her, and the world followed. 6 months had passed, and the air felt different. Brighter, lighter. Lena walked through the glass doors of New Hope Foods, not as a mother on the edge, but as a woman with purpose. Her baby, now healthier and round-cheeked, nestled in her arms, cooing softly. The building bustled with activity, but Lena moved with quiet confidence, her name badge gleaming, Community Outreach Coordinator. Every day, she spoke with families like hers, those caught between survival and silence. She listened, she shared, she helped. Her past gave her the power to connect in ways others couldn't. She was no longer ashamed of her story, she wore it like armor and offered it as a bridge for others to cross. As she passed the CEO's office, David looked up from his desk. Their eyes met, and he gave her a warm, knowing smile, one of pride, but also of deep respect. He saw not the girl from the checkout line, but a leader, a light for others. Lena smiled back, full of quiet gratitude. She adjusted her baby's blanket and held him closer. Leaning down, she whispered to her child, her voice filled with meaning beyond the words. "You never know who's standing behind you, ready to care." It wasn't just about chance or luck. It was about what happens when someone chooses to see. When kindness steps forward. When a single moment becomes a turning point, not just for one person, but for many. And as Lena walked on, her heart carried something stronger than struggle, hope, wrapped in a small, steady smile. Lena's journey began with quiet desperation, a mother's sacrifice wrapped in silence and shame. Yet in a single, unplanned moment, her hidden struggle was witnessed by someone who chose to care. David, a stranger in a grocery line, didn't just offer help, he offered dignity, visibility, and a second chance. And that simple act of compassion created ripples far beyond the store aisle. What started as one woman's effort to feed her child became a powerful story that awakened thousands. Through Lena's strength and David's empathy, a movement was born, one that reminded the world that hope can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness hold the power to rewrite someone's life. In the end, Lena didn't just survive, she rose. Not as a victim, but as a voice for others like her. Her story is a testament to the human spirit and the profound truth that you never know who's standing behind you, ready to care. And maybe, that's all it takes to change a life.